Hey there. It's January 7th, 2024, and you're listening to the Tesla Motors Club podcast. My name is Lewis.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Doug.
On today's episode, we're going to cover some new Cybertruck updates. We're also going to review our 2023 predictions. I'm really interested to see where we landed on those. And if things go well, we'll probably do 2024 predictions. All right, all that and more starts 57 now. I don't know where my brain was going with that, but like episode 57.
Is that Heinz 57? Is that
Heinz 57? I saw 57 in the notes, and I was just like, blurp, brain not worky. It's a new year.
750.
Hey, we're starting off strong, 2024. We're starting off strong.
Wow.
How are you, gentlemen? How was the new year? The holidays, all that?
We survived.
Made it.
It's pretty good. I went to Japan and I was there Christmas Day actually, and did some traveling, and it was good. And I'm not normally.
How does Japan handle Christmas Day? Because I know, like when I was in France for Halloween, it was a huge deal.
For Halloween?
Oh yeah.
That's interesting.
Halloween's gotten big now in Europe. Yeah.
Oh, because I would have thought that was uniquely American.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Japan does Christmas differently. Christmas is kind of like Valentine's Day in Japan. It's in the U.S. it's more of a family holiday. Sure. Everybody has a day off. It's also a religious holiday for many people. In Japan, it's pretty much like Valentine's Day. Like it's a holiday, but you work on that day, so it's not really a holiday, right? Like you work on Valentine's Day, and also it's more for couples, really. Like it's a big deal to ask a girl out on a date on Christmas, and there's like this thing about the Christmas wish. If you make a wish, like you love somebody and you make a wish together or whatever on midnight.
I wish
Christmas
Doug
Eve
would have asked me out for Christmas in Japan, because I would have loved to have been in Japan. Sorry.
Anyway. So there's that kind of thing. But it's it's very commercial. I remember the first time I went, I was in grad school at the time, and I was in California, and having grown up on the East Coast, to me Christmas was cold weather and and the malls
dark
are sort
of
not necessarily dark and dank, but you feel a sense of the holiday, whereas I didn't really feel it in California. But in Japan, similar latitude, it's sort of cold like the East Coast of the U.S. And yeah, just lots of Christmas stuff, a lot of like trying to sell stuff, Christmas sales, and then Christmas cake. Christmas cakey, that's a big thing, and the other thing they do is Christmas KFC. So fried chicken is a
seriously.
Yeah. It's a Christmas tradition, and all the other sort of convenience stores have done that. So like Family Mart and
Oishi keiki.
And the funny thing about Christmas cake is like if it's Christmas Day and as the evening comes on, they still got some Christmas cake there, they buy that. They're trying to get you to buy it because next day nobody wants it. Anyway, it's a nice holiday. The real holiday in Japan is New Year's. Like most of Asia, New Year's and in like Vietnam, Tet, that's the big holiday.
Sure.
But most of Asia does it on the lunar calendar. So it changes every year, but it'll be like roughly February sometimes when the Chinese Lunar New Year is.
You're the dragon coming up.
Yeah, it's my year. But in Japan, since Admiral Perry, 1890 or whatever, when they used to be closed and they got opened up, they adopted the Western calendar. So they celebrate, something as big as what would be Chinese New Year, but they celebrate it the same time as we do on January 1st. And it's a big deal to like the first thing you do, like the first temple you go to, the first time you go to an onsen, the first whatever. That's a big deal in Japan. But tragically, I sort of wanted to be around, but I came back for family. There was a major earthquake on the west side of Japan right on New Year's Day, which is that's like having a major earthquake on Christmas. It's pretty much like something like that happening here. So it's
Well,
a major tragedy
something
there.
something else that was celebrated around Christmas time this year was Cybertruck.
Yes. Is that a segue? Is that what that is?
We have a Cybertruck.
You have one personally?
No, I do not.
But we've seen them.
Yeah,
have
the
seen
out
Cybertruck has
there.
I have
happened.
seen them. They're out for real.
I have yet to see one in the wild. I would think most of the deliveries have happened were like California and Texas, I suppose, and those people that were given the option of getting what they calling it Foundation Series, is that what they're calling it,
Foundation. You can upgrade to Foundation.
which is like a
Little
play on the
$20,000 price tag.
it's a play on the Founder Series. Yeah, so most of those are Austin and or Texas and California. So yeah, I've been on the I've been on the East Coast here, so I haven't seen them in person. But honestly, you know, I'm pro Cybertruck. I would totally drive one now if I had one. And it looks pretty cool, and I'm pretty excited about the technology in it.
I finally saw one that I did like, and that was the big thing lately on X, or Twitter, as we all know, was people are getting the trucks wrapped. And I saw one done in a gloss black that looked really nice, I have to say.
Yeah, I saw that too. That was by T Sportline. And actually, in general, if you just sort of look at the Cybertruck info that's out there and a lot of the sort of YouTube videos, they're by the well-known detailers like OCD Detailing and T Sportline and whoever else.
It's a huge market.
Well, I mean, that's what it is. Like the few people that get one, then okay, let's customize it, and especially since Tesla doesn't paint it, and the main concern for a lot of people is just the sightliness or the unsightliness of fingerprints and whatnot. So they want to put a wrap on it, and yeah, we've seen what, a kind of a army green kind of color. We've seen satin white. I have not seen camouflage,
I
but
saw
that
the
makes
gloss
sense.
black, which looked really nice.
Matte black looks like what it's made to be. Matte black, but like a piano,
Apocalypse rolling on wheels.
yeah, but that glossy piano black is striking. So that's cool. And I guess I'm not sure what else we've seen, but that's pretty cool. So what else have we heard about the Cybertruck since the event? I guess the biggest thing I think that's worth talking about is Out of Spec Motoring did a proper 100% to the car won't run anymore range test. And I believe the conditions were around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is
70 miles an hour,
pretty temperate.
Roughly 40 degrees.
And that's a speed people would drive.
It's got a heat pump like the Y does, so it should not take too big a hit on range just because it's a little chilly.
And the result was
254 miles.
254 miles, which is pretty disappointing.
That's lackluster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I wonder, the EPA cycles, what is that supposed to simulate? Is that supposed to simulate, like 70, as
70's pushing, I think.
70 is kind of high. The wind resistance, like the losses due to wind resistance, go by the velocity squared if you do just the first couple terms, it goes to velocity squared. And the Cybertruck is not great on aero. Like all those sharp corners mean that you create vortices, and it just is not the way the air sort of detaches is not clean. Having a closed bed helps a lot, but most pickup trucks really it's a brick. It's a brick, right? I mean, it's the coefficient of drag times the
But if I'm not
shadow.
mistaken, when they tested the 3s and the Ys for EPA, I thought the test was at 60, which always struck me as kind of an odd measurement.
I mean, historically, right? Didn't the EPA tests or whoever sets it, NHTSA or whatever, they usually do them at 55 miles an hour. I thought.
Yeah, I would have assumed 55
classic.
since that was the national speed limit for so long. In fact, that was the reason for the national speed limit was fuel economy. After the oil embargoes of the 70s.
You go to Arizona today, and the speed limit's 75 on a lot of the highways.
Well, it got that national speed limit got repealed in the 90s, in the late 90s. I remember because I used to do some trips, and then all of a sudden the speed limit was higher. I was like, oh, great, we get to do this in less time. So anyway, the thing is, the difference between 55, certainly, and even the difference between 60 and 70 is huge, again, because it's a square of the velocity.
Right.
So, and your car will even tell you,
My Model 3 sees it. It warns me about it.
yeah, I'll say, if you want to make it or want to do this or that,
Slow down.
slow down to below 70 miles an hour is what the warning will be. So it's disappointing, but not totally surprising. I mean, the other part of this is what's the state of the batteries. I don't think they're. I mean, we know, right? Since originally the prediction, the promise from Tesla was a 500-mile range, and that didn't happen. And I think part of that is the batteries aren't where they wanted them to be. And there are a lot of things about the Cybertruck as it is right now that tell you, oh, they weren't quite ready. Like, I don't think you can even do autopilot right now on the Cybertruck, right?
You cannot.
So this Tesla, again, sort of delivering a vehicle that's not yet quite ready, and like, okay, well, then the software.
Well, I think that's because their back was against the wall, that they had to deliver something.
I mean, let's be fair. They delivered, air quotes for the listeners. They delivered
what,
the
20 trucks isn't
Cybertruck.
delivering?
Yeah, like they're not really delivering them yet. So we'll see how it goes this quarter.
Right.
But
so I guess the point I was trying to make was that I don't think the batteries were where they wanted them to be, so they're not producing the range that they wanted. And yeah, I think the car looks great, but there's still things that got to work out, and probably the longer you can wait, the better. But that's sort of how it is with technology in general.
For a lot of cars.
Yeah, not just cars, just technology, right?
Yeah.
Especially a car that's so really
Computer on wheels.
right?
I mean, if you want to compare and contrast, just look at the Blazer. I mean, they brought it out, and then like 3 weeks later, said, "Nah, we can't sell this anymore. Sorry, our bad."
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. They put a stop sale order out for the Chevy Blazer about 3 weeks after they gave it to the press.
interesting.
Well,
too many problems. Now,
Mary led. GM is
you would
leader.
say that they like to say it's all software and they're going to fix it through updates. But some of what I've been reading points to some significant underlying issues that maybe you can cover up with software, but I don't think you can fix it.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we look at the Cybertruck. I think all the autopilot stuff, I would say that's software, but the range, I think some of that's hardware. Some of that's
hardware.
I don't think that the hardware is going to change with the Cybertruck in terms of the autopilot.
You don't think they'll treat it like they do the 3s and the Ys, where they do all these upgrades midstream and slipstream it in?
They might do if they decide they needed a better computer, they might upgrade that, like give a better processor. But I don't think they're changing out cameras or anything. I think the whatever hardware is design intent, and they just need to work out whatever software issues to get FSD working on it. But the things like range, I mean, they're not going to give you a new battery, but hopefully, 6 months from now, the batteries will be better and will perform better.
They mostly tweak things just for cost and manufacturing speed and things like that. They don't usually change things to make the cars better. I mean, like if you look at what they've done in the last few years, it's like, oh, we removed ultrasonic sensors. It doesn't make the car better. That saves the money. Yeah. They've done a lot of that stuff.
There are things that they've done that made the cars better. I know from the Model Y that another vehicle, and again, this is the Tesla model. They put stuff out and it's not quite ready. But the Model Y, when it was released like weekly, there are things that they were changing.
Yep.
And it was making them better, but maybe because there was a serious deficiency in the way they were delivering it to begin with, I just noticed on my friend's car that I sort of helped them go through the purchase. They added like the gasket around the doors, like they replaced it. The funny thing is they did it on one side, not the other. So you can just sort of look at it. You see this huge gasket that it got replaced with. And then later they added sort of double pane glass and they changed the buttons. And so there are things that actually made the car better. But I guess they were fixing a problem. And they'll do that on a weekly basis. They won't wait. And if there's a a major improvement. That especially if it saves them money, they'll go ahead and do it. They're not going to wait for a model year for that. So I would expect that with the Cybertruck too. I mean, they're still working out manufacturing, no in terms of streamlining that.
Well, it's like we were talking about pre-show. We were talking about how we thought they would fasten the body panels and how they actually do fasten the body panels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we thought maybe adhesives and something like that, but you saw a video where it actually shows them welding the panel in place. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive. It really is. It's a feat, but they're still in process. So, I mean, yeah, if you saw that Sandy video, what was interesting about that video is that actually everybody stayed late and was sort of simulating making a car for the sake of Sandy being there. Sandy Monroe, we're talking about.
It's a really good video. I thoroughly enjoyed it from an.
It was very informative and it had it showed a lot of answered a lot of questions we had, and yeah, I think it was reasonable for us to wonder about it, to think, oh, they'll use structural adhesive, since that's something that they've used since the Roadster.
They do it now. I mean,
yeah, but given how thin those panels are, I was like, oh, are they really going to weld it? But it turns out they do weld it, but then they go back and clean up whatever carbon might have deposited on the side that you can see, just because of the heat. So that's that's pretty impressive. That leaves open the question about repairability, though, and what happens when you get an accident. Okay.
Well, there's already one customer that's going to know that.
There's a lot of commentary around insurance companies and costs for accidents and premiums for Cybertrucks. So, and yeah, we have some photos we're going to put up in a moment. But there was an accident with a Cybertruck, and it doesn't look pretty for the repair costs of the Cybertruck.
The Toyota didn't fare well.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure the Cybertruck fared all that well either.
So what exactly happened? So there was a Toyota that was coming in the other direction,
crossed over,
and it turned hard. As I heard it turned hard and hit a hill. It was sort of like a dirt embankment, and then bounced back into the road and crossed over, and basically sideswiped this Tesla Cybertruck. So this Cybertruck got hit on the side. The airbags deployed.
Never a good sign.
Yeah, and so if you guys see these photos, they're available online. Just the first Cybertruck accident or rear wheel crash or whatever. You see that the sides all scraped up. You can tell that the rear quarter panel, I guess we'll call it, is
a hard hit.
Yeah, it's pretty dented, and you see then that the rear passenger driver's side rear door.
If you look closely where your little hand is, you can actually see where that the door jamb itself is dented in, and that's good. That's always hard to repair on a car. Mm-hmm. But then you've got a broken wheel too. I mean, the rim took some serious damage.
Yeah,
they made it bullet resistant. They should have made it crash resistant.
Well, the thing is, from the
it held up,
right? It protected the driver. I mean,
the driver was definitely safe.
But also from the demos we've seen, people can kick it, the sort of
wear and tear,
ruggedness. The shopping cart thing is stuff that happens in the parking lots. It's definitely resistant to all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you get an actual hit, and you need it. You need it to deform when there's a real hit, right? Because otherwise,
kinetic energy
that
rattles
energy
your
goes
brain
into you.
and kills you.
So,
yeah.
But in regards to repair, so you're looking at a door, you're looking at a rear fender, you're looking at a wheel, you're looking at suspension damage. You've probably got sensor damage because the camera was in the fender well that took the hit. You've got airbags deployed.
It's a lot happened. I guess my main concern would be, let's see, this is all just random stuff. But is this from the same accident?
No.
Okay, that's something else. This side looks pretty clean, right?
It does.
The passenger side. So here's the main.
Just cut it in half and
damage.
weld it to another.
Well, I would think this is fixable, but I don't think he's going to be able to get the parts. And if you can't
Right.
get the parts, then it's a
Not
loss.
fixable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you have these two huge castings also. So if there's any damage to those, yeah. I don't know. Is this totaled or not? Or is this fixable?
I call it totaled. And I call it
We don't.
totaled more for the lack of parts than anything else.
Well, from that Sandy video we were talking about, they had plenty of
Yeah, lots of parts sitting around.
panels just sort of sitting there waiting to be assembled, right?
I'm sure they'll get right on it.
So yeah, good question. Well,
I'm sure the service center, when they got the truck, they just kind of groaned when they wheeled it in.
now I think we heard this was a like an engineering car, right? Or like
Oh, was it? I didn't hear that.
well, it was a Tesla employee driving, so I don't think it wasn't like a normal sort of customer car. So maybe it doesn't get repaired anyway.
Maybe.
But I'd like to know what the experience is of the, of your standard owner, how that goes.
Somehow I don't think the Brillo pad and sandpaper is going to buff that out.
Well, should we move on to the main event?
Oh man, the main event, the predictions.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll go over our predictions from last year, and I spent some time going over we did a show in December of 2022. We had a whole sort of list of questions that our producer Adam put together. Like what do we think in 2023? So I'll go ahead and go through these, and I went through and sort of summarized what our answers were too, so we can see, who was right. And I'll just sort of do these in order. Let's see if I still have these here.
It's the gold star.
Looks like I might have erased one, but that's okay. All right, here. So we'll start with this one. Okay. So the question was, and I don't see it listed here, but I remember the answers. The question was, okay, here it is. Will Lewis use a supercharger in the calendar year 2023? And of course, Lewis said no comment because he would know
Because
the
I
answer.
control the fate of that answer.
That's right.
Mike said no, and I said yes. And I
lost
believe
that one.
the situation was if you needed to visit some in-laws or something. I was like, yeah, your wife's going to make you do it
What
based
was it,
on.
Bucky? You went to
But we
Bucky
didn't.
something?
So
Yeah.
so the funny thing is we didn't visit in-laws this year. or
Yeah,
last
so
year.
I think what actually happened was your dad came and visited, and you wanted to take him to Bucky's, and at Bucky's there's a supercharger, right?
It
Is
was
that what
my
happened?
mom. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And yeah,
There-
my dad
family,
visited as
family.
well afterwards. But yes, my mom visited. We went to a Bucky's because she wanted to see Bucky's. They have superchargers, and I was like, yeah, while I'm here, I might as well make sure that it works. I didn't remember who said what on the prediction.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
was not biased. Sorry,
not feeling
Mike.
love there.
Sorry, Mike.
All right, so if someone is around to
Who's
take
keeping
score, that's one for me.
Oops, I forgot to write it down.
Not that we're competitive or anything.
Okay. So here's one that's just actually quite impressive. The question is, what month and day will superchargers open to non-Tesla vehicles in the United States? So remember, this was December. This was December of 2022, right? And so Mike said as late as possible, December. Okay. I said whatever date was needed, because there are some incentives, some
federal
government
money.
incentives. So they the latest as possible, just to get whatever incentives. And I don't even know what the details are of that. Lewis said March, which was just a few months away. So that was a bold statement.
Bold move, Cotton.
Bold move. And so what actually happened, the correct answer is March. We'll
Yeah,
say
yeah.
now, why is it March? Now we need to qualify it a little bit. And actually the whole landscape has changed since then. But in March, Tesla began, and I did some research, and there was an article in The Verge that it was how to charge your non-Tesla EV at a supercharger. And in March, Tesla began installing the Magic Dock adapters at various superchargers. But of course, the total landscape has changed. In 2023, Tesla, or I'm not sure exactly when they did this, but they released the NACS,
Right,
which I
right.
hate that acronym, standard,
Tesla
which is
plug.
basically their Tesla connector, opening it up to everybody. And I was sure this is too little, too late, and I'm so wrong.
You
They,
said
they
as much on
released
the
it
show.
November 2022, by the way.
Yeah,
So they released it, and then
Ford picked it up.
over the course of the year, nearly everybody else has decided that they will, by 2025, start using this connector, and
I'm
before
shocked by it.
then they'll be using an adapter.
So
even.
everybody means the only company that hasn't done it yet, and I looked this up, is Stellantis. So that's Chrysler, Jeep, Fiat. They are the outliers. Everybody else, including Volkswagen, came aboard. Reluctantly in some cases, but came aboard.
Now, I think the caveat, though, is from what, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what they said is they will offer vehicles to have that as an option. They're not necessarily switching all of their vehicles over
Depends
to
on
it.
the company. Some said they're
So-
switching, and some say they're offering like an
Yeah.
adapter.
So I'll be curious to see when it actually is just like, we're just switching, right? Like it's just the thing for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if they're smart, they'll just switch. Having to mess
Agreed.
around with adapters is
Dumb.
a worse customer experience. So our producer suggested we also, and we can come back to this question, but like, did anything surprise us, like that wasn't on our bingo card for 2023? But so right now, I'll just sort of interject. The wave of the next
Yes.
standard, that was a surprise to me, and it was funny just over the months seeing the holdouts, the Lucids. They're like too proud to use it when dude, this is a major lifeline to you, because a main problem for you is that the fact that the CCS charging infrastructure was terrible, was like useless. So yeah, that was a major surprise. I don't know anything else to say about that.
Nope, just I was awesome. I got it right. To the
Yeah,
moon.
so yeah, that's a point for you. But yeah, it's a completely different situation now, because
Yep.
it's and how will well, we'll come back to it, I guess, when we start talking about 2024. Okay. Next question. It is, what month and day will a Cybertruck be delivered to a customer? Okay. And now, at the time, we made a bit of a qualification that we meant real customers, right? Not like a founder sort of thing, but we'll come back to that. So Mike said October 31st. Lewis said July 28th, but maybe 420, because that would be something he would do, like April 20th. That was something Elon would do. I initially said end of June, but then waffled and said, well, maybe November because of Blade Runner. Because because November is why they did the November 2019. They did the unveil at that point, specifically because if you look at the opening of Blade Runner, where you see the eyeball and then the city, the
Classic.
yeah, classic scene, amazing movie. You should see it if you haven't. That
The
says
original.
that says November 2019. Yeah, whichever Ridley Scott cut of that movie. And so anyway, yeah. So some commenter said November 21st, 2023, and the correct answer was November 30th. But I'll caveat that with it wasn't quite clear who was getting it. I saw a founder. I'm sorry, a board member, and it seemed like also some Tesla employees, and there are some YouTube people sort of showing off their car, and they are admittedly Tesla employees, or at least the car that's green. I don't know.
Tesla mouthpieces. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit internal, though they seem honest about their reviews, and they do different things with the car on their YouTube channel. But and also what are they doing right now is that they're charging extra $20,000 for normal folks that want to get it now as opposed to later. So was it really delivered to a normal customer, or has anyone already gotten the Foundation series? I guess some people have gotten it already. So anyway, we'll go ahead and use November 30th. And I don't know if anybody gets that.
Good job, random commenter.
Because I did say November, but I waffled a bit. So maybe no points for anybody on that one. All right. So what's the score now? So Lewis won, me won. Is that what it is? All right. It's okay. Yeah, okay. Here we go. When will FSD come out of beta? So the point of the question was like, will it come out of beta in 2023? We all said definitely no. And I guess we can re-ask the question. I can say what we said then. Now a year has passed. What are our current predictions of when FSD will come out of beta? Well, last year I said, no sooner than 2026. Mike was the optimistic one, is saying 2025. Lewis said 2027, and then we stopped and say, well, what does it really mean to come out of beta? Because Tesla
you can say you're not beta anytime you want.
Tesla could say they're not beta anytime they want. It's a little bit of a legal protection for them to call it beta right now, to say, well, it's unfinished, whatever. But also, Tesla has redefined. They could very easily say, okay, it's out of beta, but redefine the scope of what full self-driving is, since they already redefine the scope of what autopilot is, right? Autopilot should have been, the full self-driving, right? So they could do it at any time, but then we redefined it to say, well, how about level 4, right? That means the car is doing everything and I'm just sitting there, right? The distinction between level 4 and level 5 is a little bit academic. It's like, the car doesn't need you to be there at level 4, and at level 5, you're not actually there, right? So that's level 5 is the robo-taxi, where the car is driving and no one is even at the controls or available. Anyway, and Lewis said 2030 for level 4, which is probably reasonable. And Mike pointed out that for robo-taxi you need level 4. So when are the robotaxis coming out? So it's a good question. So do we want to revise those? Anyone have any change about when we'll?
Well, I'll say about the thing you said about beta, right? So FSD version 12, which will be the next big one, has been rolled out already to some external testers that are kind of like the internal type people. And there are a lot of rumors around how version 12 is going to be the first version where they actually do drop the beta moniker. So it's possible that they actually do drop beta as a company standpoint this year. So we might all be wrong, as in they might do it sooner than we expected. I think to your point, though, that's just them redefining what it means, and it still doesn't change when does level 4 happen.
Are they actually going to call it FSD, given all the legal stuff that's like floating around that right now?
My understanding is like FSD version 12.1 or whatever.
My question is if they say, okay, we're out of beta, but it's no longer FSD, it's enhanced autopilot version 2 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Mike makes a good point, because there's been a lot of rumbling about basically false advertising, right? And part of it is the name. And I'm a Tesla fan, but I would not be upset if Tesla were forced to change the name of this thing, because it ain't what it says on the tin right now.
I wouldn't be upset if they were forced to give me hardware 4.
Yeah.
Well, you had to slip that in there, didn't you?
Sorry, I'm still bitter. I
mean, part of the promise of my car was that it was going to be a robo-taxi. Like, I was going to be able to flip a switch and then the car starts making money for me.
But that's why we can't buy back our leases, is they were all supposed to be robo-taxis.
Yeah,
or at least originally.
So to put it a little bit in context, when I was looking back at the show roughly a year ago, version 11 was just getting out, like 11.3 was just getting out to normal people, and I think we had just gotten it. And it was about a year later than we were told we'd get it. So version 12 is getting to some people now. Are we really going to get it this year, or maybe it'll be the beginning of next year? Beginning of
I think it's feasible for us to get it before the end of this year.
For 12, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll happen before the end of this year. I mean, because Elon's been driving it for a while, like since mid last year. But
that was the same case with 11.
Right, sure. But yeah, I think we'll probably see it by the end of this year. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be soon. Like I don't think we're going to get it this quarter.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I mean, the major difference, as we've said before, is that the neural net will be deciding what the car does, not just doing the perception, but also the action. Right now, one thing I noticed that my car does a lot, which I don't think is illegal in most states, is it will change lanes in an intersection while going through an intersection.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'd
mine's
love
done
to
that.
tell it, hey,
Don't do
okay,
that.
you need to make a change, but you easily could have done it before we went through or waited till after. But here you are doing it right
In the middle of
as
the
we're
lane.
going through the light. And that's not a
Because
good
there's no
idea.
line on the road, so it knows that it can move over, right? There's no line telling it.
So
That might be part of it. There used to be a major problem of it not knowing where to be, and it wasn't intending
Just
to change
drift.
lanes.
It would just
exactly
drift.
it would just drift. That got better,
Yeah.
but that was a major embarrassment when I had someone in the car and it would do that, and it was just like,
So let me ask you guys this, since we're talking about beta
mhm.
and FSD and what FSD really means. There's been a big dust up about the new updates, the recall updates that were supposed to have changed how the car behaved with you sitting there glancing at the iPad or not paying attention, nagging you. Now I have all the updates. I haven't had any issue
Me
as
neither.
far as the car nagging me any more than before. But I will
um,
say the car seems a lot smoother on the highway at least. I mean, I was actually able to do a 120-mile drive, not quite door to door, but at least freeway on ramp to freeway exit and not have to get in the middle of it. That's the first time in 3 years.
my experience is I don't unless you really take data, it's hard to know, but just it feels like it's been a bit more naggy, or at least it's been quicker to nag.
Okay.
Like when I'm looking at the screen to make sure the nav is going where I want it to go, I feel like it's yelling at me a lot faster, and it's like to the point that it's not usable. Like I need to disengage it, and then check the nav, and then re-engage it, which doesn't make sense because it would be safer for it to be engaged while I'm checking those things. So that's been my experience, and also I guess one thing that did happen is it's bigger, like the notifications of like you gotta put your hand on the wheel, all that the fonts have gotten bigger, so
Yeah,
it's a little
yeah.
bit more in your face, which I appreciate because
I
sometimes
don't
I
mind that
miss
at
it.
all, actually.
But I do feel like I'm getting nagged a little bit more.
I think maybe I'm not noticing. Like again, I haven't noticed additional nags. But it might be just because I'm driving an S, right? So I don't look to the screen normally while I'm driving. I have the thing through the steering wheel.
Yeah, I have the thing right in front of you. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm forced to turn my head a little bit to the side, and it yells
right,
at me really quick, really quick.
yeah, unfortunate.
So anyway, all right, let's see. Let's move along. Let's see. Okay, so the question last year was, will Tesla unveil a brand new model aimed at a lower price segment? So this is for 2023. Will they unveil it? I said no. Mike said yes. Lewis said yes.
Yeah,
Um,
do that.
we had Larry with us at that time. He said yes. The correct answer is no, though some information did come out from the Isaacson book. So we heard more about it. And actually, we learned some interesting things, actually, that Elon wanted Tesla to go ahead and build a robotaxi, even though they were nowhere close to it being able to be usable. It's like, it's okay, go ahead and do it. I'll take responsibility. And the engineers
scary.
or designers managed to convince him, like, well, it can be the same as the cheaper car. And he's like, okay. And that makes totally more sense. Let's just go ahead and make the cheaper car. Imagine if he made the robo-taxis like, years ago. That'd be terrible,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
just
it'd be
look at
pretty
look at
hilarious,
the
but it
Cruise.
would be
Yeah, I mean,
terrible.
look at Chevy Cruise and how that ended up. I mean,
Yeah. It's funny because that's a little bit confusing because I keep thinking the Cruise is the name of a car.
It
But
was.
those were bolts, right? Mostly Chevy bolts.
No, there was a cruise, but the
Okay.
robotic cruises are something else.
But yeah, but they were bolts mostly, right? They use Chevy
Cars they use for Chevy Cruise.
Oh,
the cars
yeah.
they used for the Cruise app
Yeah,
were
the
bolts,
self-driving
Chevy
Cruise.
bolts.
I believe
Yeah.
they were bolts. Yes.
And calling it Chevy is confusing because calling it Chevy Cruise is confusing because the
Oh, right,
company
because that's the company thing.
the company
General
was
Motors.
and actually General
GM.
it was kind of like a spin-off.
It wasn't
from
GM
Yeah.
though.
It's
It
sort of
was
its
a
own.
different.
No, maybe they bought somebody, but GM owned Cruise,
Right.
but it was a kind of a separate entity. But in correcting the issues, I think GM sort of
Yeah. The Chevy
Took-
Cruise
took
was
more
the
control.
car. That was the original car. Yeah.
all right, not to confuse anybody.
We're all confused.
Yeah. So I said no, and main reason I said no was I said it would be too embarrassing for Tesla to unveil yet another vehicle that they're not going to actually deliver anytime soon. When at the time they still weren't delivering the Cybertruck, they still which came out in 2019. They still weren't delivering the Roadster, which was unveiled in 2017. And I'll add that they still need to get a lot of work done on the Semi because the Semi isn't, delivering or doing what they need to yet. And that was also unveiled with a ton of promises in 2017, being better than rail. Better than rail, he kept saying. And it's just not there yet. So I thought it would be ridiculous to unveil yet another vehicle. But the Cybertruck is at least starting delivery. So I expect. What do we think for 2024? Are they going to show this particular car off? They're going to unveil it by 2024.
Unveil or sell?
I don't think they won't sell it. I don't think anyone will be able to buy it. In
I think they might
2024.
unveil it, much like the Cybertruck, and then sit on it for 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence. I feel like if they need the bump for the stock price, if they need to generate buzz, they might unveil like towards the end of the year. But I agree with you. They have a lot of other projects they need to actually be serious on that they realistically won't be actively doing.
Yeah. So
They
that
need to get Tesla Vision fixed. I mean,
that's the stock bump theory was the exact thing I said last year for them to if they need a stock bump, if they need to generate some hype for some reason. I would hope though that this vehicle, which is supposed to be a more of a general vehicle, I mean it should have more demand than anything else they have just because of price. I would hope that they'd be further along and that they unveil it and then be ready to start
Sell
shipping
it
something
right away.
within 6 months or something as opposed to 6 years, right?
if wishes were a thing, I saw a rendering of a Model 3-esque van that somebody put together that if Tesla were ever to put that out, it'd sell in a heartbeat. It was the sexiest looking minivan I'd ever seen. Based on the Model 3 styling. Wouldn't be the cheapest, but boy, they'd sell them.
Okay, so Danny says they will unveil it, but won't launch it until 2026, more likely 2027. Yeah, so let's see. I suppose that should be nailed down. So let's go back. So Lewis, are they going to unveil it or no?
I think no.
Okay, in 2024.
But I mean, maybe, but probably not. I should have said no last year too because it definitely didn't make sense then. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think they'll have an event for it. If anything, they might like mention it at a different event.
Mm-hmm.
But although technically they already did that, right? They had the Drake.
They already did that.
They already did that.
You're waffling
Yeah.
a lot. You know that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tesla waffles, so it's hard to know. All right, well, let's, yeah, so what am I saying? I'm hoping that they don't because
I'm gonna go with no, yeah.
because it won't be ready. I mean, I don't know, but it just won't be ready. Like they won't deliver any. I prefer they unveil it when it's ready to go, within the year,
That hasn't been their style.
And they have so much to do with the Cybertruck. And then they're they got new gigafactories going up. Like Mexico, what's their main goal? Is Mexico for the Model 2? Or is Mexico?
I thought it was.
Yeah, so I think that's the way we need to look at it is when those factories go online. But that would be kind of funny to do because Tesla likes to pride on made in America, and if they're making it in Mexico, how will that work? But anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, the Mexico factory is slated to start production either by end of 2026 or into 2027.
Okay. Production of what then?
Yeah, who knows? Didn't say.
We don't know.
Okay.
Robo taxis.
Okay. Will Tesla get a communications officer or publicly facing COO?
Not a chance in hell.
So
Nope.
that was a question for 2023, and we all simply said no. We said they should, but they won't, because this is now just sort of tea leaves and Elon's personality sort of thing. And so yes, they definitely should. A la Gwynne Shotwell at SpaceX, but they won't. And so for 2024, nothing changes. I think it's the same deal. I guess there's some question is, will Elon be forced to do something like that?
I doubt it.
But I mean, he has total control of the board, really, at Tesla. So yeah. I mean, there was some recent things that happened, right? There's some news today about Elon using various substances and whatnot. I still don't think that will affect him.
It's not
at
going
all.
to.
Yeah, I think there's more of a question with SpaceX because there are legal ramifications there. But even there, I think they'll figure out a way to just let it go. Elon has a lot of power, particularly with SpaceX, and given the needs of the military.
They can't replace SpaceX. There's nothing to replace them with.
Yeah.
So it's not going to change anything. Also, I think his response today was something along the lines of he had 3 years of random drug testing after the podcast, and he passed all of them. So that was like one of the stipulations they made is he had to agree to do random
That was
drug
a
testing.
NASA stipulation, right?
I think so, something like that. Yeah. So somebody did, and he passed them all. So, I mean,
I wonder how random.
yeah. I mean,
heads up
let's
Hey, Elon, about 4 days from now, you
yeah. Let's
have
be
a test.
Did they
be
do a hair
clear.
test?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not going to affect anything.
Well, it kind of goes back to when we were talking about AI alignment, and I said, well, there's the Elon alignment problem, right? So,
Yeah.
I think it seems that they want to keep them happy because there's no alternative. They need Starlink, they need SpaceX for military launches. There's nothing else.
Blue Origin's getting there, but they're not there yet.
Not there yet.
Well, Vulcan is supposed to do a launch tomorrow, but that's been greatly delayed, partially because of Blue Origin, because they contracted the engine from them. So there really needs to be more competition. And I think earlier we were talking about Blue Origin. I'd really like to see them succeed. It'd be nice to have more players there. I mean, SpaceX has been amazing, and I think Blue Origin has the potential to be similarly amazing. I mean, along the lines of this question of like, having a COO or having a different CEO and Elon stepping down sort of thing. And we've talked before, and what we talked about last year about, Elon being important in terms of like being the person willing to take those risks to develop a landing first stage or a Cybertruck or something weird like that, whereas a normal company wouldn't do that. A GM wouldn't do that. A Boeing wouldn't develop that on their own. They'll go along with what they're doing. But I have the sense that Blue Origin, with a leader like Bezos, is maybe somewhere in the middle. They're a bit more traditional in that they'll spend a lot of time testing before they launch anything. And they've been mostly working in the shadows as opposed to out in the public where somebody just walking by can photograph what they're doing. But I think with Bezos being more directly involved, maybe they'll speed up and
they'll be more innovative than the traditional aerospace companies.
more innovative, than ULA, which is basically up on the block right now, right? To be sold, and probably Blue Origin. I don't know. I don't know if it makes sense for Blue Origin to buy them. It might make sense for them in terms of just buying the contracts and the infrastructure, but it might just be dead weight. So anyway, Tony Bruno's cool though, so maybe just do a acqui-hire of him.
Lay off everyone else. Yeah.
Okay, so along the same lines, the other question we had: will Elon step down as CEO in calendar year 2023? We
Not
all said
willingly.
no.
Yeah, not really.
Right.
Nope.
And I think we basically already discussed it. It's, same
Not
thing
gonna
in
happen.
2024.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen. Okay, so here's a real question with an actual answer. Will the Model 3 refresh be unveiled in calendar 2023? We all said yes. And Mike specified Q2. I kind of guessed August. I don't know if you gave a date. When was it that we actually saw? Now, the Model 3 refresh was the Highland update. We sort of heard about it. We finally
started in EU first. It took
Yeah,
a
and then we
long
finally
time to
saw it
get
in
here.
Europe. I think that's what's being delivered in Europe right now, even.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not clear on the dates because it was kind of when you say that it was unveiled, I don't know. It's a little wishy-washy. So I don't know, like if we wanted to award a point here, but we all said yes, so maybe we're all right. So, and I've lost track of points already. Someone else needs to keep track of that. Did anyone have a quick answer for that? No. Like
I'm trying to
when
find
was
it, but I
unveiled?
don't see.
Okay, we'll come back.
October, according to this, it says
October.
deliveries are set to begin October 2023.
Okay. Well, it still isn't clear
That was yeah.
unveiled. Q2, August. Those are kind of close anyway. Q2 ends in June. So
Sure.
anyway, moving on. So then we asked. Let's see. Someone's asking here. I do have a question. Do you think they will allow FSD transfer in some shape or form in 2024? Okay, we'll come back to that, but no.
I think yes under some conditions. Like they did it in 2023. I think they'll do it
Well,
again.
that was a pretty limited.
Sure. And I think there'll be strings on it, but I think to push their numbers, they will do that same offer again at some point this year.
Okay, we'll save that we'll come back to that as a 2024 prediction. Okay, so then let's see. Then the last thing we asked for 2023, does Twitter exist in the same form in 2023? Mike said no. Larry, who was with us at the time, said yes. I said mostly yes, but less important. And what's the correct answer? I think the correct answer is, yeah, Twitter's basically the same thing it was for the most part. It's the same interface. The name has changed. It's lost, 7% of the value that, when Elon bought it. But it's still mostly the same. I feel like the people have changed. Twitter, for me, I mean, it's whatever, it's whatever you look at. For me, it was about, I use Twitter for science news. There are a lot of journalists and scientists that I followed that were on there. And then, of course, Tesla news and SpaceX stuff. And for the most part, for me, like the general news stuff, unless it's like a major event like the earthquake in Japan or whatever, that's kind of gone. Like the sort of real-time, useful news stuff or coverage of things happening on the ground is at least not in my feed. And that's my personal experience. And it's for me, it's only really good for Tesla and SpaceX news. But then that news isn't balanced anymore. Like it's only pro voices instead of, reasonable contrarian voices are kind of drowned out now. So it's basically a less useful experience for me right now. Anybody have any suggestions or?
I mean, I kind of, yeah, I kind of feel like it's closer to Mike's no than to your yes, but yeah, I agree with everything you just said. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So was there anything else that happened in 2023 that you didn't expect, or that was a surprise that we didn't discuss?
I mean, I didn't expect them to offer FSD transfers, so that was the thing they did that kind of surprised me. Again, it was restricted to, a narrow set of circumstances. They also, I think, were offering free supercharging again. Didn't that happen at some point? Yeah. So
limited 3 to 6 months.
But still, I think my main surprise is was what we said earlier with the NACS or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I will say that I was a little bit surprised by Cybertruck when we, that unveil. The level of interesting technology that's in it, as opposed to just being funny looking and quote unquote bulletproof. Like the drive-by-wire was much more interesting and much more bold than I thought it would be, and the 48-volt stuff was exciting, and also just and at least what they've shown. Of course, they're going to show it themselves in a positive light, but the manufacturing stuff looks pretty interesting, certainly the 48-volt stuff and the drive-by-wire stuff, I would like to see that propagate through the rest of the industry, really. So, and hopefully Cybertruck can be a catalyst for that. So,
a lot of good innovation there.
Yeah. Okay. So let's make some predictions now before we wrap for 2024. All right. Let's see. So here we go. So will Tesla unveil a brand new model in 2024? So now this is not just, the Model 2, the lower cost vehicle that we talked about. Like, will they show something else in 2024?
No.
Nope. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But like, there are potential things, and what I'd like to see them do, if it's not too hard, if it's on the same platform, like to have a box van. That's the main thing.
The Rivian for Amazon.
Yeah, so either a variation on the Cybertruck platform or a variation of the semi platform, and have that sort of last mile delivery, or that sort of intermediary spot between the semi. So yeah, like Rivian is doing for Amazon. They should have a utility van, that's they can use for their own Tesla Rangers, and that other people can buy. Something a little more practical than the Cybertruck. But
you think they can afford the batteries for that though? I wonder how much of it is just part constraint, right? Like they can't sell any more than they're selling anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, so that goes to the factory stuff, like their mega factories that they are talking about. Those tend to be battery focused, I think. So will that happen?
There was a piece I read about the batteries, as you were just talking about, Lewis. They say the biggest problem is the dry cathode. They can't get the dry cathode technology to deliver in the quantity they need. At this point, it's too hard to do reliably for any amount of volume.
Yeah, so that's limiting 4680 production, basically.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay. Let's see. So the question is, given how Tesla is opening superchargers to other vehicles, what do you think the worldwide total superchargers, the number of superchargers, will be by the end of 2024? So in 2023, Tesla opened 11,000 new supercharger stalls, reaching a global total of 50,000. So that's a tough one. I'm not a
I'll ballpark 75,000. I say they're a little bit more than double what they did last year as they ramp things up.
I don't know. I mean,
Optimistic.
I've had four brand new supercharger sites go in the last 6 months near me, and not one of them are set up for multi-vehicle or multi-brand charging.
Oh, it's not going to be Magic Dock. These are just superchargers.
Just plain superchargers.
Just plain superchargers. Because they don't need a Magic Dock anymore. Everybody's going to be NACS soon.
well, but they can't just
Well,
they can't just be the same. They need either longer cables or they need to set up the
Sure.
arrangement so you're not.
I've seen them
basically-
taking out the pillars, the safety pillars, and I've seen
Right.
them taking out the safety bumpers on the ground.
Yeah, so that you're not losing a spot. You know,
Right.
like if a Rivian pulls in to charge now, and a Tesla wants to come, you're basically taking up 2 spots instead of just one.
Well, if we're just talking plain superchargers, and we're at 50,000 now, I'd say 65,000.
Okay, I'm gonna. I mean, the thing is, the need is really there. If they're really trying to ramp up and be available for these other
that's
vehicles,
nodes, that's not sites.
Correct. This is
that's
physical
right.
charging
This is
cables.
stalls.
Right, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll just say 70. What did you say?
Yeah.
Did you say 70?
Yeah, 70 to 75, I think, is where it's
Yeah.
going to be. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Well then, but wait. Let's have actual numbers so we can score it.
I said 65. You said
He's
70.
saying 65. You're saying 70, so I'll say 75, and we'll just
All right. Fine.
we'll get the
We'll
spread.
split it.
Yeah.
Fine.
And we'll all be wrong.
Okay. Will Gigafactory
55.
Mexico?
Sorry, keep going.
Will Gigafactory Mexico or Megafactory Shanghai open in calendar 2024? I'm gonna say no with Mexico. I don't know. I don't know enough about the Shanghai thing. I tend to think, in China they're able to really quickly like open the Chinese Gigafactory. So if this thing is anyway started already, I mean, I basically know nothing about it, but if it's in any way started, I will say yes for the Shanghai Megafactory.
I'm the same way. Mexico, I'm saying absolutely not. If they've started Shanghai, which again I don't know anything about Megafactory Shanghai, absolutely. Whenever I'm in Asia, if you look at what they do in China, how fast they build in China, Taiwan, that whole region, it's nuts. So yeah, if they started it, sure, it'll be open.
Mike, same.
Same.
All right. Okay, another question. Will another vehicle, Tesla or otherwise, dethrone the Model Y as the world's best-selling car? That's tough because if you count
Domestic or
China with
overseas?
Yeah.
yeah,
BYD.
well, he
depends.
said world, right? But yeah, if you count Chinese, BYD could do it with some, lame cheap car.
Lame cheap.
I don't mean to be disparaging, but just a cheaper car basically. But feature wise,
It'll be that new Russian car I saw pictures of.
yeah, no.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
I'm going to say no. I think that the vehicle to dethrone it is the Model 2 or whatever Tesla ends up calling it, and that's not happening next year. So I'm going to say no for now.
It certainly won't be any domestic.
I'll say yes, possibly a BYD model, just to be different. Because I agree.
It's possible.
It may not happen, but if it does, it's probably going to be them.
I'll say no.
Okay, let's see. Okay, will we see Model 3 version 2.0 in the United States? I assume the
That's a
questioner
Highland?
means Highland, and yes.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
already here.
There are some
It's
weird
not
kind
shipped
of
yet.
Chinese badge things that have been seen around. There's some confusion as to what's going on with that, but I think within the next quarter, we'll have that vehicle in the States. I don't know if I'll be happy about it, mainly because of the goofy turn signal nonsense. But it looks like the aftermarket has come up with your with your sexy button solution. So the sexy buttons. So
Better than the boring button solution.
yeah. Well, that would be
Tesla's
the
buttons.
Tesla's solution. Okay. So yeah, we all said yes. Okay, how many Cybertrucks will be on the road by the end of 2024? Okay, we've sort of talked about this before when we did our various Cybertruck coverages, and I think we all came out for Q1. We were being optimistic and saying, or at least I was saying, within the single thousands. So not a lot.
Not a lot.
By Q1. Now after that, you know, if they get their act together, it's
I
hard
still
to
think
say.
you're going to see a lot just because of constraints around the supplies.
Will they get 20,000?
Total?
So there
Yeah.
were options from the producer, right? It was fewer than 5,000.
Oh, okay,
5,000,
yeah, I'm sorry.
10,000, or more
He said
than
fewer than
10,000.
5,000, more than 5,000, but fewer than 10,000, more than 10,000. So I'm saying around 5,000, definitely fewer than 10,000 Q1. By Q4, dude, they better have 10,000 by Q4. They better have more than 10,000 by Q4.
Yeah.
They better.
They'll take a serious hit on stock if they can't.
They better. So I'll say, you know, we had, and the producer Adam wrote up for us, you know, options A, B, and C. I'm going to say, I'll go ahead and be optimistic and say more than 10K by the end of 2024.
Yeah, I'll agree.
So I'll say I agree. It's probably more than 10,000. However, to me, it's questionable if it's very possible they don't hit it.
Oh, it's definitely possible.
Well, they're not going to
Because
come anywhere near the
when we
threes
look
and
at
Ys
the
delivery. I mean,
production hell, as they like to always say, and just the ramping rates and how delayed things have been, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm thinking Q1 is going to be closer to 1,000 than it is to 5,000, and then it's like, okay, at what rate can they actually ramp up? So I think it's going to be close, but I agree with you. It'll really murder their stock if they don't get them out there. So. I'm still going with over 10,000. I just don't think it's not going to be like 100,000. Like it's
no,
not even
close.
not even close in my opinion. But we'll see.
Okay, we'll see. I think a good question will be, when do they stop with this foundation series? You know,
Yeah.
When do they stop with that? You know,
Yeah, but that's their cash cow to keep it going.
I mean, why even stop it? Why even stop it if people are still buying it? All right.
I mean,
right. That's
pay
free money.
20 grand and skip the line. I mean, come on. Disney's been doing that for years.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
free money for Tesla. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, how many more of these? Okay, here we go. This is funny, and I think the answer is easy. Will we see a driverless ride from the West Coast to the East Coast in 2024?
emphatically no.
No.
I mean, well, wait. Does it count charging? Because it certainly can't do that, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I can't do that. And I'm sure like somebody, like, people have offered, I've seen it on X, like, Elon, let me do a drive, like across the country. Yeah, if people can go ahead and do it. Someone might do it, and they'll talk about how they had zero interventions or some nonsense. But dude, you had to stop, you had to charge. So not in any meaningful way, not in a way that actually means something. Will that happen? And when will we see that? We won't see that until the other predictions we already made, like, the level 4 stuff. So the answer is no.
2030.
See, I wasn't
Sorry.
even considering the charging. I was just considering the stupid roundabouts that my car can't make it through. So,
Well, I think it's a fair question though of like, do you think it could do all of the highways, right? Like without intervention, right? Could
No.
you do
No.
east to west or west to east? I grew up on the
take
East
a-
Coast, so I think east to west, but our producer lives in the West
Yeah,
Coast, so
we-
he
we-
went west
we
to
get
east.
the idea.
Either way.
Well,
way.
I think it was discussed as New York to California back in what, 2016 or something.
Either way. I think the question is, could you do the highways only with the car, with it I would say you're pretty close to that, probably.
Nope.
Still no, because of construction, right? There's
Uh-uh.
always construction on those roads and other things, but
It's got to
I-
stop and charge.
no.
I
I'm saying just the highway parts.
Right,
Like,
forgetting the charging.
you're allowed to
just
stop
the drive,
and charge
just
and
the
do all
drive.
that. Just the drive on the highway, not even the back roads off the highway
But it
to
still
get
needs
to the
to
charger.
get to the like it will direct itself to the charger, but
Mm-hmm.
getting in, just navigating that parking lot.
We're just
Well,
ignoring
that's
that part.
that's what I'm
We're-
saying,
yeah,
Doug.
we're
Ignore all
ignoring
that.
right now.
Well,
Do
but
you think it could do
why?
just the highway portions?
I mean,
to
I
the
think
other?
right now it's pretty good, just the highway, and I think
No,
yeah, you
dude.
it could do that.
If you wanted, to
I
get
still don't
to
think it could do it
LA
with no interventions, though.
Right. If you wanted to get to Los Angeles from New York, you have to cross over the mountains that we have here. And I can tell you from experience that my car wants to do 50 on these twisty turny roads when the sign's posted at 20. I
There
think
are
you might
too
get here,
many-
but you'd be in pieces.
I mean, I've done some fairly long drives, and there are spots where you have to go on semi. I mean, there'll be like, especially like Texas or whatever. There are these highways that are basically like towns. You know, it's just weird. It'll be a 70-mile-an-hour road, but there's spots where like you don't have an acceleration lane, and you literally just sort of turn. You know, or you have cross traffic and stuff. And so there are too many
That's
opportunities for weird stuff that it won't be able to do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
I don't
no,
think
but I find it very good on the highway, but no. So,
Within, I would say, very good on the highway within normal conditions.
yeah. Okay. Well, so we're just all saying no there. So
We're all saying
move
no.
on. All right. So the last one we have written down here is: will Tesla deliver a Roadster 2.0 in 2024?
I wish, but no. There's no
Yeah,
way.
I say no also, but yeah, they
But
need
I-
to do that.
But we know somebody that will deliver a Roadster in 2024. He's almost ready to paint it.
Are we talking about the Cyber Roadster?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What's the guy's name? I don't remember. But yeah, that was a neat.
We had
project.
him on the show, Doug.
We had him
We
on the
had
show. That's where the producer chimes in and says, "Oh, it was this." Of course, who's in the background to do that for me? But yeah, I mean that was a modified Model 3, right?
Heavily
Model 3
modified.
performance. Lots of Bondo. But yeah,
Impressive
probably
work.
not. I'm gonna say no. I mean, mainly because guess what they need to do? They need to ramp up the Cybertruck. And the Roadster is kind of extra. And I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they unveil the Model 2 before they start delivering a Roadster.
And
Agreed.
what about all those people that paid all that money?
Man, those people don't need the money. They're fine.
Hey, that's a loan. That's an interest-free
That's a
loan that Tesla
interest-free
got.
loan.
And then if they start making the Roadster, then that's them having to start repaying the loan. So why
Most
would
of
you-
those guys made more money off the stock in the time period than the loan that they gave to Tesla. They don't care.
Yeah, except for the guys that took out money to buy the Roadster. If they had just kept their money in this stock,
Think
they
they
would
were
have
gonna flip
made.
it.
That's
a heck
fair.
of a
They
lot
would have
more.
made. They would have made
So
more.
the opportunity cost is huge if you're
definitely
going to
an
make that
opportunity
argument.
Sure. Fair.
So yeah, but no. I mean, honestly, there are things that are much more important, like we mentioned, getting semi going right. Cybertruck is really important to get right. Not that I think the Cybertruck itself is that important, but I think the technology it represents is pretty important. So I'd like to see that in the mainstream, and the company kind of depends on it. So it is what it is. So any final thoughts here? Anything else we want to
think
stick
we
our
had a
necks
few-
out about for
There are a
Cybertruck?
few comments.
Oh, a few
questions.
comments. Okay,
Yeah.
let's see. So Ben Edwards says, we'll just go through the questions here. Some of these are kind of like predictions. What do you know about FSD coming to UK, please? Okay, we know nothing about FSD
Nothing.
coming to the UK.
Sorry.
I think that sort of stuff in general in Europe is, there's so many more regulations in Europe. I mean, the autopilot in Europe, or at least in the UK, as I've heard to my friends in the UK, it's basically unusable because they have limits to the amount of torque that the car is able to administer itself on the steering wheel. So it can't apply enough torque just to go around a relatively sharp curve. So it's basically useless there. I was like, so can you imagine like you're on the highway and it goes a curve and you're just doing autopilot and the car just runs off the road because it's not allowed to give itself enough torque to make the corner. So that would be pretty terrible. Let's see. Jeremy asked, FSD subscription ever coming to Canada? So now there was FSD in Canada. At least it seemed geofence, wasn't it? Wasn't there something like that going on?
Yeah, they did it. I think it was around Toronto or something, but it was geofence. But yeah, I mean, so they will do FSD subscriptions probably at some point in Canada. As far as when, no idea.
I mean that if it's not available everywhere in Canada, then having it anything other than a subscription is pretty terrible, right? Like if you pay 12 or 15K for something you can't really use, which is everybody's situation, but to a lesser extent.
I mean, think about it though. I mean, FSD through some of the rural countryside of Canada, that could end badly.
Wow. I mean, we all use it in places where it fails, right? But it's not true FSD, right? But it is a major sort of convenience that we are able to
Agree with
use.
that.
So, I've driven in Canada. Certainly, most places it would be usable. In fact, I think I've used it, right? I don't think mine. I drove to Canada. I don't remember my autopilot shutting down on me or anything. So,
Did geofence you off?
no, I don't think so.
No, I mean the geofence thing was just when they were doing the first city street driving or whatever for FSD. I don't think it's geofenced anymore. It should be just widely everywhere.
Okay, so they just don't offer subscriptions there. That's
I think
odd.
so.
It's odd. Yeah, I don't know. Will Tesla announce vehicle to grid in 2024? I mean,
In a way,
I mean, they already are offering that with the Cybertruck now, right?
well, it gets more interesting because the very newest generation of the wall charger has provisions for this. Only though if you tie it into the power wall. Mm-hmm. So something's in the works.
So,
I don't think so, but maybe.
I mean, to grid. I mean, you would. I don't know that you would do it to grid, right? You would do it to your house, but there wouldn't be much advantage for you to
Perhaps
do it
that's
to grid.
what they're referring to.
But yeah, maybe they're just saying, vehicle to load or whatever.
He is one of these guys from the UK. They got a funny way of saying things.
Don't listen to Mike.
You're saying they're earthing it instead of grounding it, or they're just
There
saying.
you go.
I think yes. I think they're already doing something like that with the Cybertruck. So maybe
I would say
maybe
yes. I think the potential's
yeah, yeah.
I don't think they're going to enable it for their existing cars.
Well, okay, that's a different
That-
kind of question.
That
I
would
think
require
it would,
different electronics, right?
let's see. So the I think I think they're going to do it. They're going to do it somehow. But it might be cars that have the newer batteries, and it might be like maybe a newer Model Y when that comes out or whatever. It's a kind of a lower hanging fruit. I think they might go ahead and announce something like that since it's already pretty connected to what the Cybertruck is doing. Okay, let's see. Adam asked, did the thing about you cannot resell your Cybertruck or on
flipping?
cars and bids type websites, we will see you surprise you?
This was when we were doing our things that surprised us in
In
2023.
2023. Did that surprise me? Not really.
Well, they backed down, but then they put it back into the contract.
Yeah, they backed down, but then it came back. There's something in there, and I mean I haven't read the contracts, but there's something.
Just kidding.
There's something stuck in there. I don't think they're going to sue you, but there's something else in there. They don't want you reselling it. They want, they want the value as opposed. That's the whole point of that Foundation series, right? Taking advantage of that extra value, given the higher demand early days.
You think they're trying to put the kibosh on what happened with the reservations back in the day, where people were reselling reservations for thousands of dollars?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to capture that revenue.
Yeah.
It surprised me because it sounds like such a ridiculous thing to try to do. Like, you can't sell your thing that you bought. Like, what? Like, it sounds ridiculous to me.
Well, you
so
don't really
I
own
was
it.
surprised by
If you
it.
don't own it,
If you
I
can't
was
sell
not
something, that
surprised
means
when
you
they
don't own
backed
it.
down.
yeah, you use it.
Right.
Yeah, I was not surprised when they backed down, but it feels like that was PR backing down, and then they snuck something back in there. So
Yeah.
who knows? Let me just before we wrap up, Ben Edwards sort of clarifies and basically what we were thinking. When we were talking about autopilot in the UK, he's like, correct, yes, it used to slow down for corners, but now it barely slows down.
Yeah, they call that drift mode.
We were talking about the lack of torque, and then he, because he speaks funny, he clarifies. Sorry to House when talking about vehicle to grid.
That's right, Ben. We understand.
Yeah. We speak
One of
American.
our audio producers from the UK, so he's gonna make
He'll translate.
Mike
it for
and
us.
Doug speak funny in the edit.
Now notice how Lewis said speaking funny.
Yeah.
Right.
That sounds like a value judgment there, Lewis.
He is in Austin after all.
But anyway, yeah. We've already said, yeah. I think they'll do some kind of announcement like that. In a way, they've already have. So
I don't think they will on existing cars, but they might for the newer ones.
We'll just have to hack it like we did for the CCS charger.
Like, for example, like a Model S is probably not going to do it at all, ever. Unless they change the back, because they still have to use the old cells for the performance, so they can't use 4680s. They're not going to do it for not 4680s. It kills the life of the car too much.
yeah, it might be more the chemistry than the form factor. Like
Right,
the lower
rare.
end cars that lost their tax credit. The more the iron phosphate sort of
Yeah,
energies.
iron phosphate batteries.
They're a little more
Sensitive.
less sensitive.
No, they're more forgiving.
less?
You could use
Yeah, they're much more forgiving.
Iron phosphate's great for battery backup.
Yeah, so the energy density is lower, but you can the
cycles, you can just
cycle it, the charge it
100,000
100%.
times.
Yeah, and so right, so those will probably be a little easier because you're not losing like the value right in the pack.
Correct.
You're degrading the pack less because the main thing, and that was the main argument Tesla had against vehicle to grid for years. It's like, well, that cycle life is real value and you want it for your car, right? And that's why, like, okay, the Powerwall is a separate
Buy a
product.
Powerwall.
Yeah. Now they may try to force you to still buy a Powerwall because there's certain electronics that you need, and that's already sort of there in the Powerwall, and they'll like that sort of synergy. Is that, if this is a like an emergency thing you really want, then maybe they'll force you to do that. But there are other vehicles that allow this. I can't
Ford
remember off the
Lightning
top of
does.
my head, but well, of course the Ford Lightning. But I mean, previous vehicles. I don't know if the Leaf had it in Japan with their Chademo, that you could use in emergencies, and there was some CCS vehicle, and I can't remember which ones, but Technology Connections, which is a YouTube channel, they'd sort of demonstrated their vehicle to load capabilities on whatever this vehicle was. I think it was I don't remember what it was, but it was a vehicle with CCS. With the CCS connector. So yeah. Okay. Well, hey, why don't we wrap up?
We did it.
We did it.
We made it. Yay.
So this is a throwback. So that's 57. No, sorry. Episode 57. We're back. 2024. Let's see. How did we do? Did we tally up the score? I'm going with Doug probably won, but we'll just say Mike won and not worry about it.
Yeah, I didn't really.
How did I win?
I have no idea.
I think
I have no
if
idea.
anybody lost, it was Mike.
That's true.
Man, all right. I was trying to be nice, Doug. No. All right.
But
so-
honestly, if I won, it's because I like hedged. I'm like, well, but blah 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The Tesla
So-
waffle.
Yeah, that's awful. So,
but hey, it was March, so I'm riding that.
that
high.
was
That was good.
that was
Yeah.
that was pretty good. That
Yeah.
was pretty good there.
All right.
Because we
So-
had nothing. We had nothing really to go on that one, and so that was a pretty good. Pretty good
The reason I picked March, I was like, end of Q1, March.
Works for me.
That's why I did it. Anyway, cool. So that's episode 57. We did our predictions. We did our updates. It'll be interesting to see where our predictions for 2024 end up by the end of the year. As always, thanks for joining us. Thanks for all the love and the hate. Keep the comments coming and likes, subscribes, and all that. You can always check out TeslaMotorsClub.com. Become a preferred supporting member there, which helps out the site and the podcast. And thank you to Danny and Adam and James and whoever behind the scenes, all the people making this happen. And we'll see you next time.
Laters.
Laters.